Are you looking for a podcast where you can hear from real people regarding their real dental drama? If so, then you've come to the right place. Join hosts Bethany Petty and Dr. Rena Kuba as we dive into the solutions we've created and the mistakes we've made while managing dental drama. Let's get started.
Brr, lady.
I know. We're sitting here bundled up.
Yes. Which, first of all, before I get into what I wanted to talk about here, I want to apologize to everybody because listening back to some of the podcasts recently, I'm like, what is that noise? And I think it's me. Like, it's either you.
It's me. Let's say it's me.
I know it's me fumbling around and wiggling and talking and not realizing that I'm wiggling. So I think it's probably my foot hitting something in the car or my knee. I don't know, but I'm going to try to be a lot more cognizant that I am making noises. When y'all are listening and you hear that boom in the background, like before we could blame the kids when we would do it in a closet.
I know.
But now it's just you and me, and I know it's not you. It's got to be me. So I apologize for all my movement, and I will try to...
we're going to be still as statues today.
I'm going to try. No promises, but I'm trying.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so topic for today, I don't know how many of the listeners are affected by all the snow and the cold weather and blah, blah, blah. But Dallas, we get made fun of because people are like, y'all don't know how to drive in this. No, we don't.
No.
We do not. And I see nothing wrong with that. We get like this for 4 days out of a year. Why should we know how to drive in it?
Yes.
And ours is not snow. It's a thick layer of ice.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we get lucky, we get some snow on top that we can go play in.
Yes.
So it wreaks havoc on the city for however many days. Like this last week, the kids are out of school for 4 days, which usually that doesn't happen. Usually it's like 2.
Yeah.
But I think because the ice was so solid, and then in the day, if it did get above freezing, it would kind of melt, but then it would refreeze. So the roads were just garbage. It's a real safety issue. So, whether it's legit because that could happen anywhere or because we're a pack of babies, either way, it's like wreaks havoc on the city. So the question that I wanted to discuss today, the topic is, what do we do with our patients? What do we do with our teams? Because I know for owners, it is exceedingly stressful to have to think about all of those moving parts. And so a buddy of mine that's an orthodontist, I was messaging him and he was like really annoyed because he's got his, big old SUV with his whatever tires, and he's adventurous and he lives 2 minutes from his practice. So for him, he's like, no big deal. I'm at the practice. Let's go. But his staff comes from all over the place. And so I think he's frustrated that the staff's not coming in. And so he was shut down for a couple of days last week like the rest of us. But then I was asking him something about this week, and he said like, oh, we're having to be open late, or he's like, we missed 300 patient appointments that we're now going to have to try to figure out where to put these people. So it wreaks havoc on our practices. So I think there's 2 parts to here that I kind of want to talk about. Number 1 is dealing with what do we do with the staff? And so I'll come back and elaborate on that in a minute. And then next, what do we do for our patients? Now, for somebody sitting in like Hawaii or California or somewhere where you're like, what are y'all talking about? Okay, so let's say it's not ice. Let's say it's a volcano if you're in Hawaii, if it's a wildfire if you're in California, or a flood or a tornado if you're in Kansas or whatever, right? So y'all know what I'm talking about. Or did the compressor go down? You were talking about a client whose compressor went out for 2 days. Well, what do you do with the patients and staff in that case? You have a pipe that burst and now your office is flooded and it's going to take the, however long to get the building back, into functioning mode. So same thing is where I'm kind of going with this. What do we do in those situations where we're having to be shut down and it's out of our control, but it is every owner listening right now knows exactly what I'm talking about. It is so gut-wrenching to go, what is the right move here? Mm-hmm. And hem and haw and hem and haw. And I would think the majority, probably, well, I'm making up a number here, but 95% we lose sleep over this, and we are in a complete state of, like, not panic, I would say, but just kind of like on edge of how am I fixing this? There's probably 5% that's like, well, it's not my problem. I'll just, whatever happens. But I don't think most owners are there, because it is so impactful, both from a production standpoint and a pissing a patient off standpoint and a pissing a team member off standpoint. So it really becomes this big jumbled pile of stinky you-know-what. So anyway, I just wanted to dive into that, since it's so fresh from the circumstances of at least what's gone on in Dallas last week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is very fresh for us because we're coming off of this. And I think you're hitting the nail on the head, because there's so many complicated series of decisions that need to be made. And there's so many different vantage points for how to make those decisions. I almost think, let's start with like the patient side of it, and then let's transition to what do you do with staff in this particular situation. But we'll just kind of speak on our example from this last week. So the first thing that I always encourage practice owners to do when it comes to decide, sometimes you don't have a choice. Your compressor goes out, there is no choice. Like you're having to reschedule patients and there's no hemming and hawing about it. It is what it is. Or there's a massive leak in your office. It's like you literally don't have a choice. You have to reschedule patients. When it's weather related, it's like, am I seeing patients? Am I coming in late? And what are we doing? And so the way that I encouraged my clients over this past week was take it a day at a time. We don't have to make big sweeping decisions. Just evaluate as you get close to the day that you're needing to make a decision about. Evaluate whether or not you're going to see patients the next day. That way you're making decisions off of fresh information, the latest information. Now, the downside to that is we just happened to be in a situation in Dallas where the winter weather occurred over a weekend. So it started over, I think, Friday night into Saturday morning and accumulated throughout the weekend. And so then you're like, well, shoot, how do I make a decision over the weekend? That's where you need to make sure you have your resources set up. Do you have a remote access where you can log into your software? Are you are you going old school and taking a copy of Monday's schedule home with you so that you have the numbers to call patients? Do you have a system like a Weave or Yappy or something like that where you can blast message your patients? Figure it out. If you know winter weather is coming in over the weekend, you need to have thought about it on Friday before you leave to ensure that you have the ability to contact your patients over the weekend if you decide to shut down the practice. And we don't have to contact patients on Saturday for Monday. They're watching the weather just like we are. They know, hey, I need to be keeping my eye on what's going on with Monday. So most of my practices made the call on Sunday at some point for Monday and alerted all of their patients, alerted their team members. So just take it a day at a time would be my first piece of advice. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I agree completely. And I think if you've never had to deal with all of that, like, please create your system now, because it's not a if, it's a when. When it's a pipe, when it's a flood, when it's a tornado, when it's right. Like, so it's going to happen. And I mean, I know early on in my ownership career, it was me who was logging in. It was me. We've come so far that luckily, and my manager, I have thanked her, like, she's been an angel on earth, doing all of this from home, because she's set up where she's got access to Weave and she's got access to the remote login, and she was able to handle all of that for me. You know, we happen to have on that. So you're saying, yeah, the storm came Friday night. By Saturday, the streets were all ice. By Sunday, more fell. So now we had like 2 inches of ice and 2 inches of snow. Like, so it was clearly like this was not going to melt by Monday, and roads were going to be a disaster. But we had surgery cases that day, of course, right?
Of course.
So now it's not just us. We're also dealing with the anesthesiologist, and we're also dealing with patients that are in pain. So it's like, okay, do I need to risk life and limb and ask my team to risk life and limb to get there? And anesthesiologist, what do you want to do? Because that's also your livelihood. So if I cancel, I'm taking money out of your pocket while we're at it. So it just became, but at the end of the day, like being able to contact all of these people. So luckily the anesthesiologist, I have his cell number. So we're able to text. But if you're like, oh, the number isn't, the number's in the office and I can't get to the office, like that adds to your stress. So making sure you've got systems in place that you can, and, say my manager's internet went out because she lives out in the boonies, and then who's backup? Do I know how to get in there and do some of these things? Do you have SOPs in place? And not just in a binder in your office, like, is it on a server that you can get access to?
Right.
It's the situation's already so stressful. It adds to the stress when you're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then you're like, I literally cannot execute this because I don't know how to send an email blast to my patients. Like, I figured out what to tell them, but now I literally can't tell them because I don't know how to do it. So have all of that ready somewhere where you've got it, like maybe in your own Google Drive that you can go back and, maybe every 6 months you're looking at saying, did we change our systems? Did we change our passwords or something so I can get in there and like literally execute this stuff?
Yeah.
You may be about to, you might be about to say whatever, you'll know what I'm trying to say. I'm going to jump to it before you do.
Okay.
One way that we try to decide if we're open or not, and a colleague taught me this years ago, is they go based off whatever the school district is doing. And so even if you're general or surgery or whatever, it's still the school districts. Like, your patients may not be able to get to you if you're an adult practice because they have kids at home. Mm-hmm. And their kid's school got closed, which means they're at home, which means the parent's stuck with childcare issues. So it does affect everybody. So it's kind of like a good way of going, okay, so for us, if one of the districts that's close to us is Capel. So if Capel is closed, then most likely we're going to be closed. And that kind of helps when patients know that and team members know that, mm-hmm. then it kind of helps set the precedent for, like, this is what's going to help make that decision.
I think that's a good guiding principle. If you're just like, I need a system on this, I need to not have to waffle and try to figure out what we're doing every time. Some people that just hate that decision-making process and don't know how to fully evaluate whether it's safe to be open or not, the school districts are overly cautious. And if they're going to be open, chances are it is absolutely safe for patients to be able to get out. If they're closed, chances are it is unsafe for some patients at least to get out and get to appointments. Now, in this particular case, what's interesting is, just to kind of throw if that ends up being your system, here's one word of caution on that. We, in Dallas this last week, a lot of the districts were closed longer than people thought they would be, because there were certain, like the main roads were cleared and salted and all the ice was removed. But there were a lot of side roads that there just wasn't enough manpower to take care of those. And so in neighborhoods or in roads that were leading to neighborhoods, those were not maintained or those were not cleared. And so while the main roads or highways were cleared, the smaller roads were not, or the parking lots weren't. So I know our district ended up being closed the entire week. Of course, we're out in the boonies, and so a lot of those county roads were impossible to navigate, but also the parking lots. They couldn't get the ice off the parking lots in the schools, and so they knew kids could fall, break arms and legs and all of that if there was ice in the parking lot. And so thinking about it from that vantage point, I had plenty of clients where the districts were still closed this week and they decided to go ahead and open because their parking lot was maintained and most of the roads around them were maintained enough that they knew at least some patients would want to be able to get in. And so I think that's one rule that I think is very helpful to follow, is like, just go with the school districts. But it doesn't mean you can't veer away from that rule. If you're like, oh my gosh, the school district is still closed, but we happen to be very central in town and we're fine, then feel free to break your own rule.
Which is exactly what happened with us. And it's still just day by day. So how we kind of decided, I actually wasn't in town, but one of my assistants, who's very much like, she does not like to be at home and the roads do not scare her. She's like, get out of my way. So she, I didn't ask her to, but she came up to the office because she wanted to make sure that nothing had leaked and wanted to check the faucets and all that. So bless her. And so I finally said, and we'll get to this more when we get to the staffing part of it, but to me, I'm like, okay, if you felt safe getting there, I know there's still some of my team members that are out in the boonies and they're not going to feel comfortable. And I don't know that I feel comfortable with them on the roads, even if they want to be heroes. So I just kind of said, who can get there?
Yeah.
Does anybody want to get there? Do we have a doctor that can be there? Because I'm not in town. And so one of our doctors was like, yeah, I can get there. I want to work. And so we ended up having like the skeleton crew of a doctor and 3 team members that came. And then we were kind of calling patients because, again, we're there where our patients come from a very small range, like within a 2 to 3 mile is the majority of my patients from around my office. Really, probably 50% is 1 mile within the office. Because again, Dallas, Metroplex, like there's 5 of us on every corner. So this is kind of my corner of where I draw from. And I'm like, a lot of them are going to want to come out and come. And so we were saying, we were calling even patients from next week to say, hey, if y'all want to go ahead and come on in, because I wanted to make it worth the while for the team. That's the other thing, like depending on where you are, even if you can risk life and limb and get there, but are any patients going to show up? Mm-hmm. And you don't want to go through all of that and then be sitting there for 2 patients.
Exactly.
Because we've all done that before, and that sucks. And so it's a very unpredictable situation, but I think really paying attention to what your area is like, what the weather's kind of doing, and getting a pulse of who can be there. Or if it was like me and 2 front team members, well, obviously, like, how are we going to do patient care when none of us really remembers how to turn the compressor on? You know what I mean? Like, so if you can get together your crew, those are things that you want to consider. And so for those of us that have been doing this a while, it's like, it's still inconvenient and stressful, but it's not like it was in the early days for me. Like the first 5-6 years of it, I was always in panic.
Yeah.
Always. I didn't want patients mad. I didn't want team members mad. I was worried about production. Like we were losing productive days, and it was exceedingly stressful.
And it still can be, for sure. Like none of this is easy by any means. But I think as long as you know going into it, okay, this is how we're going to communicate with patients. We've got that set up. We've got that ready to go. We've got a backup in case so-and-so that has the login can't log in, then at least Susie is prepared to be backup. Getting things like your voice messaging system. If a patient calls into the office, if you're not going to have somebody answering phones, which thankfully with a lot of the phone systems, phones can be answered remotely. So it could be that the office is closed, but you've got Sally teed up to be answering phones from home that day, which is an option. Now, again, I don't anticipate in a situation of weather that a lot of patients are going to be calling in. But if you've got a situation like a compressor or a leak, that phone can still be answered in most situations. And so it's figuring out who's on phone duty, or at the very minimum, changing our voice message to say, hey, thanks for calling the office. We are actually closed today. Please see our social media accounts for updates on when the practice is going to reopen. Making sure you're putting the information out on social media so that patients can find that up-to-date information. So I think communication is key here with patients. We've got to over-communicate rather than under. So we don't just need to communicate with the patients that were scheduled on Monday. We need to communicate with the whole patient base to say, by the way, we are closed today due to the weather. And you're like, really? Our patient's going to call in? You never know. And you certainly don't want them to be trying to get a hold of you and not able to at least hear what's going on. So communicate on social media, send out an email blast that you're closed. Certainly personally contact, or at least blast contact, the patients that are scheduled for that day. Are you going to have somebody answering phones? If not, then you need to change the voicemail so that people know that you're not answering phones that day. Even setting up an email auto response. Like if patients are emailing in, like, am I going to have my appointment on Wednesday? Do you know if you're going to be open? At least there's an auto email response if nobody's watching email during that period of time.
So I'm giving you homework. Can you make a playbook? Or even if playbook items, because I know you may already have them lined up for the next digest, but even like a hub document to be like, what is my inclement situation protocol? And just all the things we need to remember to do. If you're in a building, do you have your management company's info at the ready?
Yeah.
Or is it in the office that you can't get to?
Right.
So just other things that like things to prepare, like you just said, like are we sending leaving a out of office message? Okay, what am I saying on that message? I don't know.
Yeah.
What is the verbiage for the email that's not going to irritate a patient? Mm-hmm. Am I too vague? Am I too specific? So just things like that it's like, okay, fine. Like now I know I want to, you just said, put something on social media. Like what? What do you want me to put? So first of all, I don't even know how to do that, right? Like me physically, there was a time, like I said, year 4, year 5, year 7, I used to do that myself. Now a team member does it.
Right.
So if the one team member I can't get a hold of and she doesn't have internet or whatever it is, who else can do it? So do I have a backup? So first of all, like now I've decided we need to do an email or a social media blast. A, how do I do it? B, what are we putting on it? So just those kind of things. Can you create a resource?
Yeah, absolutely.
To help walk us through all of that.
Yes, and stay tuned for where we'll drop that. Speaking of, we didn't say this at the beginning, but it's February, so the February Digest is out, and it's got a ton of great information. But yes, we'll figure out where we can sprinkle in an inclement weather plan. Maybe the hub might be the easiest spot.
That's what I was thinking, because I know you already have March content being worked on for the resources. So, yeah.
That's great.
Perfect. Okay, so can I transition this a little bit?
I think let's transition, yeah.
So now I want to talk about like the whole staffing part of it. And I think early on my thought was staff want to stay home. I just assumed that they would be angry if I said get out, because I think I assumed that they'd be like, what do you want me to do with my kids? And what do you want me to... actually, hang on. Before I dive into that, I know what else I wanted to say. The other thing, when you were talking about parking lots and ice and all of that, I think that, to me, one of the first years that we had the snowstorm or whatever, and my assistant lived closer to the office than I did, and I was like, hey, do you feel comfortable? She's like, yeah, my dad's driving around. I'll get him to drive me. And she's like, we spent 30 minutes trying to pry the door open because the way, even though there was no ice in the parking lot, the way the door, there's like an awning over the door, so sunlight never hits that spot. There's like a solid, thick, like 4-inch thick ice.
Oh my God.
Blocking you from opening the door. And she's like, it took us like 30 minutes to get, carve our way through that, which part of me was like, why'd you do that? Like, you could hurt yourself. It wasn't that important to get into the building. Whatever. I appreciated her efforts. But I think for me, that's where I start going, if a patient is to get hurt on the premises, we will be liable for that. So is that production worth it to pay for that?
Exactly.
Because we're liable if their 2-year-old steps on your gaming console and crashes it down on the wall when their mom's not watching the kid. I'm liable for that too. So in the weather, if somebody slips trying to get into my building, that's going to be on me. So that alone right there, kind of before the person told me about the school districts, that alone, I was like, if there's ice on the roads, I know there will be ice at my entryways. Nope, not opening.
Yeah.
Or will my staff slip on that trying to get in?
Yeah.
And then I'm liable for that workers' comp. Nope, not doing it. So to me, that took precedent over a patient being angry at me. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say, I am in a different situation than those of y'all that are like, this patient has been on my ass about getting this crown delivered, and I need to get that crown delivered. Otherwise, this patient's going to complain with the board, right? Like in pediatrics, there's very little that I would have to risk life and limb for an emergency for. So I will say it's easier for me to be like, I'm calling it, I'm not coming in for any patient, because you will be the same patient that I could get your crown on, but then you slip on the ice on the way out, and now
I know, like,
now you're mad at me anyway. So for me, that's kind of was my boundary, if you will. And there was something else I was going to say about that. Now I forgot, so I'll interrupt myself again when I come back to it. So moving on to staff then, my assumption was staff would want to stay home.
Yeah.
When I worked for an office before I started my own, I remember witnessing, and my jaw just literally dropped, because there were team members that were like, well, I could have gotten here and worked, but you chose to close the office, and what about my pay?
Yep.
And I was like, what? He protected you and protected you from having to, he said, I'm not gonna like push patients, because there were plenty of patients who wanted to come in, and he was like, no, I gotta watch out for the safety of my team first. Mm-hmm. And you thank him by saying, well, you prevented me from earning, and now I'm gonna pay rent, which fair to a degree, but on the other hand, I'm like, dude, this guy can't make a right decision, because if he says we're open, then a majority of the team is gonna go, wow, what am I supposed to do with my kids? You expect me to risk getting on the highway. And so we thought he was accommodating. And then there's like two that are like, well, now I couldn't get a paycheck, and what am I going to do? And I was just like, dude, this guy is in a no-win situation. Yeah. This sucks. So can we talk about, what do we do with our teams?
Yeah,
What's the right answer?
And this one is a delicate subject, I understand, because there are, when we say two sides to the coin, man, there are two opposite sides to the coin on this. And so I fully get the position that team members are in when a winter storm comes through and wipes out a week of work for them. That's catastrophic for them. I totally get that. And I also totally get that it's catastrophic for the practice.
Thank you. I was about to say it's catastrophic for me too.
Yes, it is. It is. It is a no-win situation, to be perfectly honest. And so it's so challenging in that scenario to go, what do we do? Like, yes, team members, gosh, they got, stuck at home, unable to work. Practice owner is at home, unable to work. Nobody's winning in this situation. And I see practice owners that are torn, because they're like, I feel so bad about this situation. But at the same time, what do you do? And so here are some things that I want to kind of throw out. First of all, practice owners, if you don't have a PTO plan in place, this is why we have PTO. A lot of paid time off, PTO, paid time off. A lot of people think paid time off is for vacation, right? Oh, I offer a week of, paid time off so that somebody can take a vacation. Yes, that may be what it's used for. But I view paid time off as this situation. Oh no, the practice had to be closed Monday through Wednesday this week due to winter weather. And thank goodness I have a paid time off plan so that my team members can utilize some of that paid time off and supplement their pay. Now, that paid time off always comes out of the practice owner's pocket, but ultimately it's a benefit that team members are able to still pull on that paid time off and get paid. a lot of practice owners feel pressured by their team members to still pay, not out of paid time off, but to still pay for the hours that they could have gotten had they worked. And as much as my heart goes out towards team members, I am adamantly opposed to that. And I know I can feel the laser eyes coming at me right now from team members, but I'm opposed to it for very valid reasons. Number one is everybody's losing in this situation, and the practice is suffering when there is no production for a week, and it compounds the problem when the practice owner still has to pay team members when they weren't there to work. So it takes an already bad situation and it makes it progressively worse, so that now the practice owner is in a deeper hole than they were before. I think the pressure that team members feel for practice owners to pay comes from the idea that there's an endless bucket of money that's just waiting to be spent. And that is such a false... I'm not saying that there aren't practice owners that do have that bucket of money, but that is truly the exception. That is not the rule. Especially coming into January, the month of December going into January is one of the hardest times for practice owners, because number one, usually there's some time off over the Christmas break that team members are paid for. It's holiday time, or they're using the rest of their paid time off and the practice is closed and not producing. There are Christmas gifts that practice owners often buy for their team members. There's Christmas bonuses that oftentimes practice owners are paying. It is a very expensive month for practice owners. So they are normally coming into January in a deficit position. Cash flow is a problem. I can't tell you how many times in January a practice owner chooses not to pay himself or herself. When I say that doesn't register with a lot of people. It definitely doesn't register with team members. So I want to challenge team members here. We have a lot of team members that listen. I want you to imagine for yourself a month of no pay. A month of zero pay is a big deal. Okay, so when practice owners are already coming into a month where they oftentimes don't pay themselves because December was so expensive, means they have bought Christmas gifts in lieu of paying themselves. They have paid out Christmas bonuses in lieu of paying themselves. They have closed the practice to allow team members to have time with their family in lieu of paying themselves. So they're coming into January on that, and now we've got winter weather that hits, and we want to say, hey, doc, still pay me because I could have worked and this is a hardship on me and my family. A lot of times your practice owner is already in a hardship, and so it's very unfair to ask to be paid in that situation, and it compounds the problem. So that's number one reason.
I will say, at least what I saw in the practice that I worked for before I started, like that was it. The staff, where he was like, well, you have PTO you can use, and team members were like, but this isn't, they were like, that's my vacation time. This is bad weather, and I don't want to waste my PTO on this. And so again, he was kind of just stuck. And, you know, it was just, for me, just jaw-dropping to go, how do these people not see that he didn't make any money? Like, to me, it's even, you know, as a business owner, you have to make a lot of decisions that are right for the business. And for dental owners especially, I think it gets really, like, we get emotionally involved because we work so closely in a company like, I don't know, Amazon, where the CEO is off, like, going to the moon, literally. Like, you know, they're far removed. But in our offices, we are not far removed. We are sitting there side by side. And so we are very aware of the impact of any decision we make on the team. And, you know, a lot of times it's not fair to the owner because you have to sometimes, like, remove the emotion and go black and white. What is the right thing to do here? And to me, very black and white is any business. If money is not coming in, how is it going out? Yeah. There's nothing to go out. And so here on snow days, we did not make money. Yeah. So how can I pay you then? Like, it doesn't. So to me, I'm like, I'm going to leave it that simple. to where, like, even when we're hiring,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, I want you to read this policy manual and really take note. Do not come to me. If that's going to make you mad, do not accept the position.
Right.
Because it is not fair that I should be penalized for what Mother Nature decides to do.
Yeah.
So these are how we proceed. And if that's going to bother you and you think you're entitled to that, it's not.
Yeah.
That's not a fair. To the point where I think y'all remember this from back in the summer, where I'm like, summer, we're paying out a lot of bonuses because we're busy and all of that. But everybody in my pedo office knows the day school, because of our demographic, we are really killing it on school holidays.
Yeah.
The day school starts until the next holiday, which is like sometime in October, we are crickets.
Yeah.
Y'all know that. So you know I'm going to be asking some of y'all to stay home. You know I'm going to be like, and it's nothing personal. It's black and white. There's no money coming in. We had 5 patients today. What do you want me to pay you guys on? I am losing money being open today.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't matter if I've got a pile of money at home or if I've got nothing in my bank account. It shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
We've got to keep it black and white to go, that is the nature of business.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, go be a teacher. Go be a hospital worker.
Yeah.
But if you are choosing to be working in a small office, that's what you signed up for.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of perks to that.
Absolutely.
You're not coming in at 5 a.m. for a hospital shift. You're not staying till 5 p.m. on a school shift. You get, there's you know, yes, there's benefits to working for the school district that you get the whole summer off. But the rest of the time, you don't get paid very well.
Yeah.
You get paid very well in our offices.
Yeah.
You're not, you know, if you work for Chick-fil-A, their business is always there. You're going to be off on Sunday. But the rest of the time, you're going to come home smelling like chicken every day.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's just the nature of that business.
There's pluses and minuses.
Yeah, so don't put it on your doctor that your doctor's the bad guy and they should be paying you. That's what you signed up for.
Yeah.
And you certainly take advantages of the perks when they are there.
Yeah.
And if you're like, no, there are no perks, okay, then maybe you're in the wrong field. I don't know what to tell you. Then go work somewhere where it is more stable. Go be a Amazon delivery driver. I don't know. But this is what you signed up for, and it is not fair to that business to have to pay you when the business is not making any money. Period. Plain, simple, end of day. An analogy I would give, if you have, say, a lawn guy, or every 3 weeks you go to your hair lady, and she's counting on you, she saves that slot for you, or for your nails, or for whatever. Let's go with the lawn example. Say you've got somebody who comes and cuts your lawn every week, and now it snowed, so there's no lawn to cut. And if lawn guy came to you and said, but you still owe me money because that's the service we have, but you didn't cut my lawn. Right, but you still owe me money.
Right.
That's like what you're doing to your doc if you're expecting it to get paid.
Right.
You didn't do the job, and it's not the doctor's fault.
Yeah.
You didn't get to do the job.
Yeah. Exactly.
So whether it's the compressor or the tornado, like...
Yeah. I think team members, we've got to reset our mental expectation on that. It can't be that the doctor's now going to cover this deficit. We just can't expect that. And if we put that pressure on the doc, it, in many situations, it is terrible for the practice. It's a terrible decision. And as I say this, I'm thinking of a couple of my clients that felt stable enough financially to be able to gift a day or two. I think the max was like 2 days that one of my clients paid, because he was like, it is a rough situation. Financially, I've preserved, I've made sure that but also, so he ended up gifting 2 days. His team did not ask for it. His team did not expect it, and I think that's a very different scenario.
Yes, it is, but I still don't like it because you're setting a precedent now.
Right. But they are a Monday through Thursday practice, and his compromise on that was, hey, I want to gift these 2 days, but I also need to ask you to give me 2 Fridays. We've got to have places to move our patients, and I know Friday's not our normal day, so I'm willing to gift you this. I need you to be able to gift me 2 Fridays.
See, so to me, that is exceedingly generous because he is going to have to pay them for those Fridays.
He is.
So to me, to me, I shouldn't have to gift you anything and negotiate with you. We are open on Friday. That is the nature of business, that we couldn't be open this day. You still need a paycheck. Why should I just give you money for Monday and pay you Friday? Like, I'm not doing that. You want to earn, you're saying you need your 4 days. Well, this is the day you can make it up. And if you're going to have a shit fit about coming to work Friday, that's your problem. But then you're just not going to get a paycheck. Yeah. Like that to me, I'm really worried about setting a precedent.
Yeah.
Exceedingly generous, but even if the team didn't ask for it, now you've planted the seed that it is a possibility.
Yeah.
And so now every time you have to shut down, you have just opened that door that they're going to be like, oh. And then if you don't, I think most of them will be like, oh, okay, he didn't, but there will still be a bitter taste.
Yeah.
Even some will have a very small bitter taste, some will have bigger, but guaranteed there will be a bitter taste going, oh, why did we get it then and not now?
Yeah.
So I wish he hadn't done that.
Yeah.
Because I think it's going to cut. No good deed goes unpunished. That decision will come back to chomp him in the ass. The other thing I was thinking about, I think this is what I forgot earlier. Part of me goes, okay, well, we had to be shut down for these days. So what's the next holiday? Memorial Day. Okay, so should I go ahead and give you Memorial Day pay now, but then you don't get paid on Memorial Day?
Right.
But then I'm like, but then that opens a whole nother can of worms as far as like, but what if you're not an employee by the time that rolls around? Right. Or what if, again, am I going to be expected to make set accommodations every time?
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. I'm going to keep it back to, if McDonald's had to close on Monday because no workers could get there, is McDonald's going to pay their employees? Hell no.
Yeah.
It is what it is. You're going to have to figure out your own situation. And that is nature of business wherever we are.
Yeah.
So why should we as owners be held to a different standard than the nature of business? And we are running a business.
Yeah.
So to me, this is one area where I keep it very black and white, where I'm like, it needs to be fair across the board. And if I'm dishing things out, it's not fair to me and to my practice.
And I do think the black and white boundary of this is what we do. You know, and again, this goes back to, it doesn't mean that an employee has to go a week without pay. There is paid time off. And again, this goes back to, if you don't have a paid time off policy, I would encourage you to incorporate it, if nothing else, for things like this, so that there's the ability for somebody to choose. No, it's not vacation. PTO does not equal vacation. I don't like that connection,
that mindset.
Yeah. PTO is when I have an unexpected absence, I have the ability to draw on that benefit. And in all honesty, if that means that I use it up on being sick or snow days or whatever, that's what it's designed for. When I take a vacation, to me, paid time off, if there's still paid time off available, fantastic. But if I take a vacation and don't get paid because I used it on all these other scenarios, to me, that makes sense. That makes logical sense to have it used that way. So, all that to say, I like the idea of just clearly black and white. If the practice is closed for some additional reason, this is, yes, I understand you didn't get to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but we're adding this day and this day. And you'll be expected to work. You'll be able to recover your hours by working extra, essentially, to make up for this, which I think is very fair. That's fair to the practice. That's fair to the team, because they're able to rebound financially and get some hours back in. And it's fair to the patients, because we have 3 days of patients that now need to be rescheduled quickly. Well, we've already got a full schedule. Where are we going to put those patients? Guess what? We're adding days, or we're expanding days to be able to rebound from that. And that, to me, is a very fair approach. That's not fun for anybody, but I think that's fair. The other thing is, if we're closed and you've got somebody that can work and wants to work, answering phones, responding to emails, responding to text messages, working to reschedule. They're calling the patients and getting them rebooked. That's a great thing that can happen from home. So if everybody's homebound and you've got somebody that has that access, that's beneficial for the practice. It gives that person the hours that they need, and also our patients are being taken care of, which is...
And this is where, if you're a team member, I would encourage you, learn more skill sets. Yeah. Because there are some, I know in my office, that are like, well, I will do that. And I'm like, no. Your grammar is not appropriate. You last time you sent it out to this group and that's not the group that should have gotten it, like whatever. So if you're like, man, I want to make sure that I don't ever have to go another week again without pay, make yourself useful. And then you bring up and say, hey, I can do this. I can come up and do that. I can come and be legitimate. Don't just go and sit on the clock, but keep in mind that practice is bleeding right now. And so please do not add salt to that wound. Make yourself helpful. And in that regard, then you're helping yourself and you're helping the practice. That's a win-win. Go for that.
Absolutely.
But because I have seen too where it's like, well, she's allowed to have access from home. I don't have access, and that's not fair. She gets to have hours when I don't. Okay, well, have you ever done anything
to try to get that?
You've always been the one to say, nope, when I'm home, I'm with my kids and I don't want to be disturbed. Okay, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Right.
So are you helping or are you not?
Yeah, agreed. And I think that's a great way to approach it. What can I do to make myself valuable so that if and when the practice does have to be closed, I have access, I'm trained, I'm approved to be able to do these additional administrative tasks, which are helpful during a closure. So if anything, go do that. Get prepared for that. So awesome. Good topic. Thank you.
Thanks for joining the conversation today. We hope that you are comforted in knowing that you are not alone. But we also hope that you're walking away with some really great tips and tricks to try in your practice. We value your feedback, so please take a few moments to rate and review the podcast. Finally, we want to make sure that we're covering the topics that matter to you. So track us down on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and let us know what topics you want us to cover. As always, please know that we are rooting for you today as you manage your dental drama.